Magkasangga, magkakapi, sa hamon ng buhay, ipamagpapilog. Ako ang iyong kasamang kaibigan, sa ating kapapabayaan. Magkasangga tayo, magkasangga, magkakapi, magkasangga, magkakapi.
Ang programang ito ay hatid sa inyo ng Equilibrium Probiotics. Ito ay ang bagong food supplement na gawa sa mga piling gulay at prutas at dumaan sa isang masusing proseso para mapangalagaan ang inyong kalusugan. Ang Equilibrium Probiotics ay dinisenyo para sa kalusugan ng ating tiyan, tulungan ng pagkuha ng sapat na nutrisyon at ang pagpapalabas sa ating sistema ng mga nakakasirang toxins. Ang Equilibrium Probiotics ay may iba't ibang disenyo at sangkap base sa inyong pangangailangan. Mula sa boost para sa mga bata, fortitude, boost to grade, miracle fruit, periwinkle, at ang pinakabago, liver fruit. Ang Equilibrium Probiotics ay may pagmamalaki ng produktong gawa sa kanila. Ito ay mabibili sa Dasyen, Geta Road, San Sebastian, Phase 3, Ginauganan, Tarlac City. At para sa mga malalayong lugar, mabibili din ang produkto ng Equilibrium Probiotics sa Lazada. Ito ay eksklusibong gawa ni Ginang Malu Reyes Murray. Ano pang hinihintay nyo, mga kasangga? Hala, bili na! MSB Kape at Balita sa Umaga. Hatid sa inyo ni Kuya Dong. Magandang umaga po mga kasangga. Araw ng Lunes, August 7, 2023. At mukhang maganda po yung araw natin ngayon, no? Mula kahapon hindi na po masyadong nag-uulan. Kaya hopefully itong Lunes natin, back to normal na tayo. At sana naman po hindi naman po masyadong mainit ng panahon kagaya po ng mga nagdaang buwan na hindi nga umuulan pero sobrang init naman. Sana naman po magpatuloy na po yung napakaginhawang panahon para sa ating lahat. At bago po natin simulan itong ating pagbabalita, samahan niyo po muna ako sa isang maikling panalangin. Sa ngalan ng Ama, at ng Anak, ng Espiritu Santo. Amen. Mahal naming lumikha, maraming salamat sa bagong araw na ipinagkaloob ninyo sa amin. Sa mapayapang gabing lumipas, at sa patuloy na pagbuhos ng iyong mga biyaya sa amin at sa aming bayan. Naway ipagkaloob pa sa amin ang lakas at tibay ng loob upang mapaglabanan ng kasamaan at manatili po kami sa paggawa ng mabuti sa kapwa at sa pagsunod sa inyong itinurong tamang landas. Lahat ng gawain namin, inaalay namin sa iyong anak na si Jesus, na aming mahal Panginoon. Amen. Sa ngalan ng Ama, ng Anak, ng Espiritu Santo. Amen. Good morning to our favorite baker, Michelle Dayan. Ang aga mo. Salamat sa iyong patuloy na pag-antabay sa ating regular na programang MSB Kape at Balita sa Umaga. At sa ating pagsisimula, magandang umaga po sa mga nakikinig at nanonood sa atin sa TikTok, yung mga nanonood sa atin sa Instagram Live, at syempre naman yung ating mga regular watchers sa ating FB live streaming at YouTube. Magandang umaga po sa kanila. At sa ating pagpapatuloy sa ating pagbabalita, here is a summary of our top stories for today. Philippines condemns China's water cannon attack. Hanggat dam level good for 2 months water supply. Jeepney group to seek fare increase if Pope's vigil in Portugal draws 1.5 million pilgrims. Determine PCG liability in Rizal boat sinking. House urged. Barangay SK Paul bets warn versus premature campaigning. 15 Mindanao private armed groups dismantled. Sparks, Gilas payback versus Senegal. And here is the top story for today. This top story is brought to you by Equilibrium Probiotics. Please scan the QR code to see the health benefits and how to avail. Philippines condemns China's water cannon attack. Report by Evelyn Macairan to the Philippine Star. PCG ship on way to show Manila, Philippines. China Coast Guard vessels fired water cannons at Philippine Coast Guard ships that were escorting boats conducting a resupply mission to the BRP Sierra Madre near Ayungin Shoal last Saturday. The confrontation was the latest flare-up in the West Philippine Sea, with China using its Coast Guard, which is under its Central Military Commission, chaired by President Xi Jinping. The Philippines condemned yesterday the water cannon attack, stressing that the area is part of the country's exclusive economic zone. Department of Foreign Affairs spokesperson Maria Teresita Daza said the DFA is fully aware of the incident reported and shares the concerns raised by the Armed Forces of the Philippines and the PCG in their statements condemning the latest Chinese actions. The DFA has filed a large number of diplomatic protests over increasingly hostile actions by China in recent years. The Ayungin Shoal is a low tide elevation that is part of the Philippines' exclusive economic zone and continental shelf, pursuant to the 1982 UNCLOS, and has affirmed as affirmed by the 2016 Arbitral Award. The Philippines exercises sovereign rights and jurisdiction over Ayungin Shoal, Daza said in a text message to reporters. The PCG condemned the alleged dangerous maneuvers and aggression shown by the CCG in a statement issued yesterday by PCG West Philippine Sea spokesperson Commodore J. Tariela, which asked the CCG to discipline their forces in the WPS and show respect for the Philippine sovereign rights in the area. The PCG calls on the China Coast Guard to restrain its forces, respect the sovereign rights of the Philippines and its exclusive economic zone and continental shelf, refrain from hampering freedom of navigation, and take appropriate actions against the individuals involved in this unlawful incident, said Tariela. Tariela provided photos reportedly showing Chinese vessels CCG 4203 and CCG 5303 firing their water cannons at different sections of the PCG's BRP Malabrigo at approximately 7 nautical miles northeast of Ayungin Shoal, also known as Second Thomas Shoal. No injuries were reported from PCG personnel or from the boats being escorted. The PCG vessels were escorting indigenous boats that were chartered by the AFP to deliver water, fuel, and other supplies to military troops staying at the BRP Sierra Madre, which serves as their outpost in the West Philippine Sea. The Armed Forces of the Philippines strongly condemns and expresses grave concern over the China Coast Guard's excessive and unlawful actions against Philippine vessels near Ayungin Shoal, the AFP said in a statement issued yesterday. The incident prevented one of 2 chartered boats from unloading supplies needed by military troops stationed at the Sierra Madre. Because of the CCG's dangerous maneuvers, the second supply boat was unable to unload the supplies and could not complete the rotation and reprovisioning mission, the AFP said. We call on the China Coast Guard to act with prudence and be responsible in their actions to prevent miscalculations and accidents that will endanger people's lives, the AFP urged. Tariela said that these actions exhibited by the CCG not only disregarded the safety of the PCG crew and the supply boats, but also violated international law, including the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, and the 1972 Convention of the International Regulations for Preventing Collisions at Sea, or COLREGS, and the 2016 Arbitral Award. We ask the China Coast Guard as an organization with the responsibility to observe state obligations under UNCLOS, COLREGS, and other relevant instruments of international maritime safety and security to cease all illegal activities within the maritime zones of the Philippines, he added. In Beijing, China Coast Guard spokesman Gan Yu said 2 repair ships and 2 Coast Guard ships from the Philippines illegally broke into the waters in China's Nansha Islands. Beijing implemented necessary controls in accordance with the law and stopped Philippine ships carrying illegal building materials, he added. Sinungaling. This is not the first instance that the CCG ships allegedly tried to block PCG vessels from breaching Ayungin Shoal, where the Sierra Madre ran aground in 1999. But hindi pa kasi mag-deport yung mga pogo na matuto sila. Just last June 30, CCG ships reportedly demonstrated its aggressive behavior as it tried to block 2 PCG ships, the Malabrigo and the BRP Malapascua, that were escorting a boat conducting a resupply mission to the outpost. It was recently announced that the Philippines is set to conduct joint sea patrols with the U.S., which might take place before year-end. While the U.S. lays no claims to the WPS, it has often lashed out at China's aggressive actions and deployed its warships and fighter jets in patrols and military exercises with regional allies to uphold freedom of navigation and overflight, which it says is America's national interest. China has warned the U.S. to stop meddling in what it calls purely Asia dispute and has warned to unspecified repercussions. Ganun talaga yung mga bully, takot sa kapwa bully. Additionally, Beijing has criticized a recent agreement by the Philippines and U.S., which are long-time treaty allies, allowing American forces access to additional Filipino military camps under a 2014 defense agreement. Senators condemned water attack. Senate President Juan Miguel Zubiri said China's water attack was yet again a manifestation of its might versus right treatment of its peaceful neighbors. By its actions, it shows diplomatic duplicity of preaching about amity but practicing hostile behavior, Subiri said. We want to make friends, but why is it so hard to love you, China? Kailan naman ang may mahal eh, he added in Filipino. This incident reaffirms the merit of the resolution the Senate has unanimously passed, he noted, because China contemptuously ignores protests, all the more that we have to rally the world to condemn acts which have no place in a civilized order. Senate Minority Leader Aquilino Pimentel III said the PCG should think of ways to outsmart the CCG on their resupply missions, adding they should come up with sensitive plans behind closed doors. Ba't hindi na lang ano yung mga pogo na lang kaya balikan. Use diplomacy and intelligent tactics, Pimentel added. He, however, said the Mutual Defense Treaty with the U.S. should not be invoked lightly. Use our common sense, not the MDT. Senate Majority Leader Joel Villanueva, this kind of bullying must stop. We need to have a strong stance against the continuous harassment of the Chinese Coast Guard on our Philippine Coast Guard in our very own territory. Hindi lang yan, pati mga fisher folks. This is the reason why the Senate adopted Resolution number 718, strongly condemning incursions like this. Your Senate is always ready to fight for and protect the country's sovereignty and sovereign rights, he said. We urge the DFA to implement the courses of action stipulated in the resolution passed by the Senate to finally put an end to this harassment and bullying by China, Villanueva added. Senator Risa Ontiveros, who authored the resolution condemning China for its intrusion in the WPS, said the CCG has absolutely no right to block, let alone water cannon or supply vessels. They have no right to starve the Filipinos in Ayungin Shoal. She said China's repeated provocations are in complete violation of UNCLOS and the 2016 Arbitral Award. I call on our regional neighbors and the broader international community to join the Philippines in condemning this dangerous behavior. I also hope our country can start joint patrols with other claimant countries in the SCS, such as Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Brunei. We need to work together to stop China's aggressive actions, Ontiveros said. I also hope that the DFA is already starting the steps to bring China's endless interference to various international fora. The recent adopted Senate Resolution 718, with its precision and specific recommendations, is at their disposal, she added in Filipino. Senator J.B. Ejercito said, it is clear that the government of the People's Republic of China is deliberately ignoring the 2016 arbitral ruling that dismissed their baseless 9-9 claim. At the same time, they are playing deaf to our diplomatic protests and warnings from our allies. Ay nakakahalata rin pala kayo. They noted that the fact that this incident happened shortly after the Senate of the Philippines approved a resolution seeking to raise China's bullying before the United Nations is even more insulting. We cannot let this slip. This is too much already. China is frustrating. China's abuse of our Philippine Navy, Philippine Coast Guard, and fishermen is too much. Territory, security, and peace are at stake here, Ejercito said in a mix of Filipino and English. I urge the national government to heed the Senate's recent resolution of China's aggression and take decisive measures to safeguard our territorial integrity. These measures will require us to expedite the modernization of the armed forces of the Philippines and strengthen our defense cooperation program and pacts with our allies, he added. Senator Ramon Bong Revilla Jr. said the Chinese ambassador has a lot of explaining to do and must not shirk from the obligation to shepherd the maintenance of diplomatic relations, especially with yet another blatant disregard for Philippine autonomy and sovereignty. It would do well for China to remind its subjects to respect the sovereign rights of the Philippines and the internationally recognized right of freedom of navigation, he said. With the initial report from PLE Brago,
Celsius Suerte Felipe, and Rainier Alan Ronda. Good morning po kay PWD Maligaya President Ramon Berenguer. Maraming salamat, Brad, sa iyong panonood. Moving on to our next top story. Angat Dam level good for 2 months water supply. Report by Bella Cariato to the Philippine Star. Manila, Philippines. The National Water Resources Board, or NWRB, has assured the public of uninterrupted water supply. Sorry po, na bumagsak yung ating ano. Siraan pa ako ng gamit. Wait lang.
It's 6 o'clock.
Time check, it's 6 o'clock. Sorry about that. The National Water Resources Board, or NWRB, has assured the public of uninterrupted water supply for 2 months as the level of Angat Dam has reached 199.69 meters. In a radio interview, NWRB Executive Director Severino David Jr. said that the current water level of Angat Dam can last for 60 days before it returns below its normal operating level of 180 meters in the event that rains will not come to replenish the reservoir. As of 6 a.m. yesterday, the water level of Angat Dam has increased by 0.36 meters compared to its previous level of 199.33 meters. David noted that while the rains brought by Typhoon Egay and the southwest monsoon can cause flooding in many areas of the country, the dams were able to replenish as the Angat Dam has already increased by more than 20 meters since the second week of July. He added that NWRB hopes that the water level of Angat Dam will further improve and attain its normal high operating level of 210 meters to 212 meters to ensure enough water supply for Metro Manila and the irrigation systems until next year and next summer. We want that July level will not happen again. The rains brought by the monsoon rains are equivalent to our 2 month supply for Metro Manila. We are confident that the rains will continue to be experienced in the watersheds of Angat Dam to be able to sustain the present level until we reach 210 meters, David added. At the same time, David reiterated his call for public to conserve water amid the threat of El Nino. We need to be responsible in our consumption of water, especially because it is expected that El Nino will affect us. It is better for us to have enough water stored in our dams. It is better not to waste water when using it, he said. Moving on to our next top story. Jeepney Group to seek fare increase if report by Mark Ernest Villasa to the Philippine Star. Manila, Philippines. A temporary fare hike should be allowed if the price of diesel continues to go up, according to Transport Group Alliance of Transport Operators and Drivers Association of the Philippines, or ALTODAP. We are currently studying the previous practice wherein the temporary fare hike is allowed once the price increase of diesel reaches 7 peso per liter. It will be automatic if it goes down. The fare will return to the previous level, said ALTODAP President Milencio Vargas. The Magnificent Seven, the country's 7 largest transport groups, asked the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board to approve surcharge fares during rush hours in Metro Manila, Vargas added. Under our proposal, the surcharge fare will be implemented from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. and 5:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. every day during rush hour, according to LTFRB Chairman Teofilo Guadis III. The mechanics are now being finalized. This will be an immediate solution to help the drivers, he noted. Diesel prices might increase by more than 4 peso per liter on August 8, that's tomorrow. Last week, oil companies implemented a 3 peso and 60 centavo per liter adjustment for diesel. If the diesel price hike continues and reaches more than 7 peso per liter, jeepney drivers could lose more than 5,000 peso in direct income, according to the pinagkaisang samahan ng mga tsuper at operator nationwide or piston. Based on our computation, the direct income of drivers was reduced by at least 90 pesos per day and at least 2,250 pesos per month with the oil price hike last week. If the adjustment for diesel reaches more than 4 pesos per liter, this will mean more than 5,000 peso decline in the direct income of the drivers, Piston National President Modi Floranda said in a radio interview over DCBB on Sunday. Congress should review the oil deregulation law, Floranda added. Almost 26 years after its implementation, it removed the power of the Department of Energy to review the oil price increases. It does not go through legal processes, no public hearings, referring to the oil price hikes. The announcement of the oil price hike is being done via text, he explained. The oil deregulation law enabled oil companies to dictate price fluctuations, he noted. Vargas supports reviewing the oil deregulation law and called for the immediate release of fuel subsidies for transport groups. During our meeting with the LTFRB, the issue of fuel subsidy was discussed, and according to Chairman Guadis, there is a small budget for this, and we hope that this will be released soon, Vargas said. Fuel subsidy. The fuel subsidy has become a source of conflict between drivers and operators, according to Floranda. We requested the LTFRB and the Department of Transportation that the subsidy for the driver for the operators should be different, he added. He said in Filipino. Piston's proposal has also been communicated to the Office of the President, aiming for a dual benefit system, he noted. The LTFRB now announced that last month a 6,000 fuel subsidy to public utility vehicle drivers. Last year, a 6,500 fuel subsidy was provided. The distribution mechanics for the subsidy is being finalized, Floranda added. Moving on to our global top story, Pope's Vigil in Portugal draws 1.5 million pilgrims, report by Clement Melki to Agence France Press. Lisbon, Portugal. A sea of 1.5 million pilgrims packed a riverside park near Lisbon on Saturday for a vigil held by Pope Francis as part of a global Catholic youth festival. Worshippers cheered as the 86-year-old pontiff slowly drove by on his Pope mobile to the stage at the Parque Tejo on the outskirts of Portuguese capital. We are the Pope's youths, they chanted as national flags fluttered and the crowd estimated at around 1.5 million people, according to the Vatican, citing local officials. The Argentine Pope urged the crowd to pick themselves up whenever they suffer a setback in life. Those who remain on the ground and have retired from life have lost their hopes and dreams, he added. Drones formed the words, rise up and follow me in the sky above and stage as the Pope spoke. Many waited for hours under a blazing sun for the start of the vigil, singing, dancing, and playing cards to pass the time at the park, which was built for the occasion on a former landfill site. There was little shade, and worshippers protected themselves from the sun with umbrellas or makeshift tents made from sheets, or tried to cool off by pouring water over their heads. Powerful moments. Portugal's State Weather Office has put Lisbon on alert for scorching temperatures that reached nearly 36 degrees Celsius or 97 degrees Fahrenheit on Saturday. Charlotte Bordas, 26-year-old who came from Mont-de-Marsan in southwestern France, said she was moved to see people from around the world at the event. We hear all languages spoken and we see the same joy on people's faces, she told the AFP. Gathering around the Pope, praying together are very powerful moments that give hope and strengthen our personal faith. The vigil is part of World Youth Day festivities, which is actually a week of religious, cultural, and festive events that that is held every 3 years in a different city. Santi Salvador, a 19-year-old Spanish student, said he walked to Lisbon from Barcelona to attend the event, a distance of some 1,300 kilometers or 800 miles. We left 40 days ago. It's a pilgrimage to see the Pope, he told the AFP. The leader of the world's 1.3 billion Roman Catholics will deliver a final open-air mass on Sunday morning at the Parque Tejo before returning to Rome. Many pilgrims who attended Saturday's vigil plan to sleep in the park to be there for the service. Everyone can enter. Earlier Saturday, Francis visited the Shrine of Fatima, a revered site north of Lisbon devoted to the Virgin Mary, where he was welcomed by around 200,000 people. He recited the rosary which with sick and disabled youths at a chapel built on the spot where the Virgin Mary was said to have appeared to three shepherd children in 1917. In an address to the crowd, the pontiff reinforced calls made many times during his trip for an inclusive church. This little chapel where we find ourselves is like a beautiful image of the church, welcoming without doors, he said in improvised remarks. The church does not have doors so that everyone can enter, he added to applause from the crowd. The Pope prayed in silence for several minutes before the statue of the Virgin Mary in the chapel. In a text published later on Twitter, recently rebranded as X, the pontiff said he had prayed for the church and the world, especially for countries at war. The pontiff, who now uses a wheelchair or walking stick to get around, arrived in Portugal on Wednesday for the World Youth Day Jamboree. World Youth Day, created in 1986 by John Paul II, is the largest Catholic gathering in the world and features a wide range of events, including concerts and prayer sessions. This edition initially scheduled for August 2022, but postponed because of the COVID pandemic, will be the fourth for Francis after Rio de Janeiro in 2013, Krakow in 2016, and Panama in 2019. Moving on to our regional top stories. Good morning, Bro Eric Muli. Thanks for watching. Determine PCG liability in Rizal boat sinking, House urged. Report by Delon Porcalia to the Philippine Star. Manila, Philippines. A lawmaker wants concerned committees in the House of Representatives to look into the circumstances behind the recent sinking of motorboat Aya Express in Binangonan, Rizal, which left 27 people dead and 6 others missing. Cavite Rep. Elpidio Barzaga Jr., who chairs the House Committee on Natural Resources, has filed House Resolution 1159 directing the appropriate House committees to investigate the incident, which occurred on July 27. In a statement, Barzaga said the investigation would focus on the liability of the Philippine Coast Guard, or PCG, as the incident was obviously due to overloading. Survivors said the boat carried heavy cargoes such as motorcycles and sacks of sand and rice. The manifest stated there were only 22 passengers and 3 crew members, Barzaga said. The resolution also urges concerned House committees to investigate the PCG, the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, and the Department of Interior and Local Government, as well as the Municipal Government of Binangonan, to see their responses to the threats of Super Typhoon Egay. Barzaga cited reports quoting PCG Chief Admiral Artemio Abu as saying that the Coast Guard did not inspect the boat, as the manifest showed figures that did not reach the authorized number of passengers and cargo. As such, the boat was allowed to sail, Abu reportedly said. Continuing with our regional stories, Barangay SK Paul bets warned versus premature campaigning, report by Rick Sapno to the Philippine Star. San Fernando, Pampanga, Philippines. The Office of the Commission on Elections in Central Luzon has warned candidates in the upcoming barangay and sangguniang kabataan elections against engaging in premature campaigning. Anyone caught soliciting votes for or against any political candidate and hanging posters ahead of the October 19 elections will be punished, according to COMELEC Assistant Regional Election Director Elmo Duque. We can file charges against candidates who will campaign outside the October 19 to 28 campaign period. Violators will be punished with 1 to 6 years imprisonment without probation, Duque said. Violators will be disqualified from holding public office and will not be allowed to vote. Finally, from our regional top stories, 15 Mindanao private armed groups dismantled, report by Emmanuel Tupas to the Philippine Star. Manila, Philippines. 15 private armed groups or PAGs in Mindanao have been dismantled ahead of the barangay and sangguniang kabataan elections. The dismantled PAGs are in Maguindanao and North Cotabato. Wendell Orbeso, the Office of the Presidential Advisor on Peace, Reconciliation, and Unity Director, told a news forum yesterday. Orbeso said 90 members of the PAG surrendered and turned over nearly 200 firearms. The recovered guns were turned over to the Philippine National Police for safekeeping. Orbeso confirmed that some of the PAGs were affiliated with politicians. He did not give details. The PNP had earlier said it is monitoring 49 PAGs across the country, a majority of them in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. And moving on to sports. Sparks, Gilas payback versus Senegal. Report by Ralph Edwin Villanueva to the Philippine Star. Manila, Philippines. Bobby Ray Parks provided a spark in the fourth quarter as Gilas Pilipinas exacted revenge against Senegal 75-63 in their rematch at the Heiwan WUS International Basketball Tournament in China Sunday night. Parks scored in all 8 of his points in the fourth quarter to help turn things around for Gilas. Good morning, Admin Sol. Thanks for joining me this morning. Parks scored in all 8 points, all 8 of his points in the fourth quarter to help turn things around for Gilas. With the Nationals down 6 to start the fourth quarter, Parks was integral in tying the game and later in helping Gilas grab the lead against physical Senegal side. With the game tied at 53, CJ Perez had a layup to give Gilas the lead 55-53. Parks then heated up and first scoring a layup, then hitting a corner three-pointer to bump the Philippines lead. AJ Edu then hit a dagger triple with less than 2 minutes remaining. With the win, Gilas got back at Senegal after the latter defeated them in their first encounter last Friday, 64-72. Gilas and Senegal both scored identical 2-1 win-loss records in the tourney. The Philippines will be facing Iran once again on Monday. That's today. So good luck sa ating Gilas Pilipinas team who will be competing against Iran today. Kaya yan mga brad. Kaya yan mga kasangga. At dyan po nagwawakas sa ating pagbabalita ngayong araw na to. July, di nakamove on. August 7, 2023. And here again is the summary of our top stories for today. Philippines condemns China's water cannon attack. Ang let them level good for 2 months water supply. Jeepney group to seek fare increase if. Then Pope's vigil in Portugal draws 1.5 million pilgrims. Determine PCG liability in Rizal boat sinking, House urged. Barangay SK Paul Betts warned versus premature campaigning. And 15 Mindanao private armed group. Finally in sports, Sparks Gilas payback versus Senegal. And our top stories were brought to you by Equilibrium Probiotics and The Shed. Please scan the QR code to see their offerings and their menu. Time check, it's 6:23 a.m. At shoutout po ulit sa mga nagmantabi sa akin ngayong umaga. Kay Richelle Tayag, good morning. Kay Brother Ramon Berenger, our PWD President here in Barangay Maligaya, good morning. Kay Brother Eric Muli, good morning Brad. Kay Admin Sol. At sa ating mga TikTok na umantabay sa ating ngayong umaga, maraming salamat sa lahat ng mga nag-join. At I'll be seeing you again tomorrow, Tuesday, for the regular episode of MSB Kape at Balita sa Umaga. Again, thank you and God bless.